What are you doing here?
That's spot on.
Yeah. I think you should go home, Devin.
Yeah, take the 15 to the 405, go left on Sunset, and get out of here.
And exit on Mulhall and have it dump you off where you belong.
That is so good.
These are some natural California avocados. Welcome back.
Woo, office hours 22.
The big 2-2.
You said that so perfectly. That was beautiful. Yes, here we are, Brendan.
Made it.
Did we have guests this past week?
We sure did. One of them was a Stanford radiologist and professor named Heike.
And the other?
Was named Virginia, and she's also a part of the Stanford health system.
Yeah, within the radiology department.
Yep.
More so on the research side.
Yeah.
And what did we talk about again?
Diversity in medicine and diversity in healthcare.
Yes.
Both on the delivery of the healthcare and on the practicing and inside the employment side of the healthcare system.
Yes. Yeah. And so Heike actually just authored a book, or she kind of created this book that pulls on a lot of different people within the radiology department at Stanford and about their experiences, and asks them about how diversity has impacted them, how different types of forces and systems have impacted them in their development and their process of getting to be where they're at in the radiology department. And it's very interesting to hear just different people's stories. And it was super cool to talk about in our conversation, to highlight why this is such an important topic and why it needs to be something that is implemented throughout. Mm-hmm. Collaboration. I think that was one of my main takeaways of if we want to progress further, we're going to need to collaborate collectively to support each other with great minds. Mm-hmm. And if we silence others and silence other minds, we're going to really just limit our progress.
Yeah. To lack inclusivity is to not be thorough enough.
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're not thorough, then you can't really claim to be hitting the highest standards that are out there.
Yes. I mean, this is just going to not being willing to hear the other side.
Mm-hmm. I don't know that I particularly would word it that way. I wouldn't say it's not a willingness. I would say it's a blindness to the other side. Even recognizing in the first place that the other side has a perspective that may vary. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot more of that going on. Just like a bit of an ignorance in a sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not like something to be ashamed of,
mm-hmm.
But it's just there's more perspective out there than most people, I think, are attuned to.
Mm-hmm. But I agree. I think it's more of that. But I do think it's both, in the sense that there are, I believe, people who are at the top who are just like, this way is the right way. Mm-hmm. I got my buddies. They're right. These other people are wrong. You're not getting in.
Yeah.
And it's pretty dangerous.
Oh, for sure. But I think we're on the cusp of, really not allowing people to be in positions of power who don't have a fairly well aligned, conscious and perspective on on this topic. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I feel like you will easily be exposed in the coming years if you're not willing to recognize the value in a wide variety of perspectives and the importance of including people from a wide swath of society.
Mm-hmm. This is interesting. Well, I didn't think I was going to just start getting into this right away.
Well, send it.
So Tim Dillon's just so fun to listen to.
He's just outrageous.
He's outrageous. And he's really well thought out at the same time. And he delivers things in the funniest way.
Yeah.
He's a
comedian.
He is a comedian.
So
for
it's
people
part
who
of
don't
his
know.
Part of his nature. Yeah.
Yeah. But he was on Lex Friedman's podcast, and I decided to listen to that 2.5 hours just straight through. And they were talking about like comedians and how comedians often say the truth that everybody wants to hear but can't say.
Mm-hmm.
And Lex Friedman was making the argument that by doing that, he thinks that there's been progress in our world, that there has been like a push towards something that is better and is some type of progression. And
I think comedians are the first place where serious issues can get talked about because they're mocked. And then by getting it into like the conversation, it can grow. And if there's really traction with something, it'll turn into something bigger.
Right.
Yeah.
But Tim Dillon was kind of pushing back a little bit, saying like, we're still talking about the same stuff and making jokes about the same stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Like there hasn't been that much progress.
Well, I don't know that that's fair to say.
Mm-hmm. I know. And they had a very good discourse about this whole topic and idea, because he was saying so much that like, we can't take comedians that seriously. That was
we definitely should not.
Yeah. That he was like,
so he was making the case that we should not allow comedians to be the drivers.
yes.
I think that would be almost that goes completely against, I think, where the roots of comedy probably came from. I think that is one of their major societal functions. So to say that a comedian shouldn't be able to be some kind of instigator for positive social change or negative social change if there's something, else going on, like, I just don't think that could be the case.
I think he was making the argument, and I'm probably messing up his point a little bit, so don't take what I'm saying as completely true. But I think he was just saying that like, you can't take what they're saying, what comedians are saying, as like Bible, and that's it.
That is correct. Yeah.
And that's going to take the comedy out of it. Because if you take this one piece seriously, they're like, oh, wow, he hit this one point home. But then they say some crazy stuff because they're funny and they're comedians.
Yeah. And the nature of being a comedian is to test the boundaries of what's socially acceptable to talk about.
Right.
So from that standpoint, like, yeah, you can't take them too seriously, because when somebody goes out of their way and is like taking on a profession to, for the pure goal of getting people to laugh, they are bound to make errors in that.
Yeah.
And that's, you should not, crucify a comedian for saying the wrong thing or stepping over the line.
Yes.
That's wrong.
That's what he was weary of. He doesn't want people to hold them to that type of standard.
He thinks we're going towards that. Is that what I'm understanding?
That's what he was getting from Lex's argument.
Okay.
Is that like, yeah, we'll hold them to a certain standard to where what they say is true, and we have to kind of live by that. And he was like, I want to be able to say whatever the hell I want to say. And it's going to be wrong sometimes, and sometimes it's going to be right, but I don't always have to make a true point that is also funny. I can make a ridiculous point that is hilarious.
For sure.
But the reason I bring this up is because just comedians having that conversation and saying those things that society is not wanting to say, that is sweeping under the rug, is highlighting these points, getting them talked about like you're saying, and is hearing the other side, or is at least starting the conversation. And I think that is a huge key to progress. And I think in a very kind of far-reaching way, by them, like Virginia working with the trainee diversity committee, having these spaces, and then Heike providing the newsletter, having these spaces and these outlets for people to voice their opinions, share what their experiences are and what they're going through, and then let that be heard and have other people think about it. That's when there can start to be progress, or there can start to be more thought-provoking change in discourse.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that, and we kind of brought it up in our interview, but one of the things that is like really important, and that's like the newsletter that Heike kind of pioneered within Stanford. The thing it gave people was depth. You know what I mean? It was like, I think there's a lot of really positive things that are being like pushed, like in like we're kind of in like this this testing phase, right? Like we're going to make some diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives within companies that are going to fail, but we have to like, it doesn't mean you don't try. Like you've got to figure out where is there like real value in like creating new like systems and opportunities to create, equity in businesses and make sure that everybody's got equal opportunities to achieve. And I think one of the things that I really liked is that they were not just like bullet points. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just like giving facts. Like there was something really honest and genuine about like having a newsletter that really truly allows people to speak and for other people to just listen. I think there's like a lot of power in that piece of it, because I applaud people who want to like spread that message, but I just think it's almost like it's too often going to fall on deaf ears if it's not met with any kind of depth. Like knowing somebody is different than seeing somebody.
Yeah.
Right. So I think what they're doing is really, really valuable in that sense.
Yeah. I think that's a very good point of like you and I could just say, let's practice diversity in medicine.
Right.
And like people are going to be like, sick guys. Like,
yeah.
What are you guys going to do?
Right. But you could find somebody of a minority in your workplace and truly get to know that person and make a massive difference, and at least in somebody's life, because you're not going to interact with everybody, but you can work on bettering your immediate community that you're involved in. And I think that's an important piece of what they're doing is they're taking their community and they're just really embracing the diversity that they've got within them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't think this newsletter can be like highlighted enough. And I know we talked about it in the interview, but yeah, geez, like that is something that can be so personal, and it's kind of nice because it is somewhat of a safe way to tell your story in the sense that it can be edited and it's thought out of what you're going to say.
Yeah, you get to control your narrative a little bit and just make sure that you're not, there's just a little oversight there. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful way to kind of really start this initiative. And it's something that I think is just can really grow people like rapidly.
Are you familiar? Oh man, I'm going to butcher I don't even remember his name, to be honest. But there was a gentleman who was interviewed by Joe Rogan. He was an African-American piano player, and he's like credited for, I think the proper term is disrobing over 200 Klan members.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name specifically.
I don't even remember.
He does a TED Talk too about it.
Yeah, and he's got and he wrote a book, I believe, and he's got a fascinating story. And the biggest takeaway I had from that is the way he was able to do it.
Well, what did he do? Can you explain
the disrobing that he did is specifically getting people to give up their positions in the Ku Klux Klan. But the way he did it was very simple and honest, and it's kind of what we're talking about. Is he found himself in opportunities where he was face to face with these people, and he showed them that he's no different than any other person. And by really truly getting to know him, he changed people's minds. And it's like granted, I'm not trying to compare the average person who needs to have their horizons broadened to somebody in that scenario, but it goes to show what the value of just the depth can be. Getting to really truly getting to know somebody can have such a more lasting impact than I don't know. Like, and the worst place that I see this is in advertisements.
How so?
I just don't know how much I believe when a big company wants to put, like, what is the core purpose of an advertisement?
Yeah, it's just to get consumers to
Get
buy
people to
more.
buy and like to sell products.
Yeah,
So if you want to use your quality of humanity as a way to manipulate people to purchase things, I just see it. It's like so try hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, I feel like there's a lot of companies, it's not that bad. You know, I'm not going to say like there's people doing like blatantly bad things, but I'm just like, I get that you're trying to show something positive, but like there's no depth in these commercials. These are surface level statements that you could read on any billboard. What makes you special? Like that's not it. Whereas a really creative way that I feel like this has been done. I don't know if you're familiar, or I don't know how many of the Work Life podcasts you've listened to with Adam Grant.
A decent amount.
Have you heard like the company profiles that they've done on people where they highlight like the background and the opportunities, like within Chase Bank, for example, like people with disabilities, for example, like they do like a 15-minute advertising profile on a person in a company. Like that's depth. You know what I mean? Like that makes me think like, that makes me think like, wow, Chase is actually doing real things to make an impact on people's lives. They're not just saying in a Lexus commercial with somebody sitting and the guys in the passenger seat saying like, I see you, like, I feel you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, but like, show me a little bit more, you know, like.
But did they just do that once? And were those paid actors?
Could be, but at least they're at least showing that they get it on another level. You know what I mean?
They're actually trying a bit more than just
the fact that they would even
signaling.
try that shows that they actually care about true perception, in my opinion, which I think is a much better correlate for actual attempts at diversity, equity, and inclusion than just putting out a commercial, like a cookie cutter commercial, and then making me think that like some big corporate office is really doing anything. Like you put a crap load of advertising dollars behind that could have gone towards much more good than that commercial. You're still trying to just sell a Lexus.
Well, I think this is an interesting thing, and I'm curious because, yes, I agree with you. Like these big companies are like hopping. I mean,
it's okay to say they're hopping on the bandwagon.
They are hopping on the bandwagon in order to like
advertising
keep up with other
will
companies.
ruin advertising comes in and ruins everything.
Yeah.
So a legitimate movement and effort becomes a bandwagon when advertisers try and manipulate it for sales.
Yes.
Yeah.
But is it doing more good than harm? So there's still the harm internally in the company where they're probably not actually believing and practicing this. But
for the most part, I would say.
If it's affecting millions of people's perception of like, okay, there is progress. Like this company is backing us up on the surface level.
That sounds incredibly dangerous.
Yes, but I'm saying in the long term, do you think it's something that
dangerous. What you just said was,
step.
do I think that a fake perception of a company doing good is long-term beneficial? And my answer to that is no.
Maybe we can just really cast like a self-fulfilling prophecy on them of like, you know, they're doing good.
You think if they BS enough, eventually it's going to just become a reality?
Fake it till you make it.
I guess so, but damn, that sucks.
I mean, yeah.
Why can't we
don't
just
want
make
that
it till we make it?
That would be beautiful.
Yeah.
That would be great. I'd rather have this be fixed with the snap of a finger.
Yeah. I'd rather see companies like sacrifice profits to do the right thing.
Brennan.
But like
that, come on.
Yeah. But like, you know, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Here we are.
Yeah.
That would be nice. That would be very nice.
Yeah.
What are you thinking about the Olympics right now?
Man, it's been weird. I don't know. There's like, with all of the, like, obviously, like, you know, we have to take COVID seriously. So it's just so unfortunate that so many people have to withdraw because of like testing positive. Simone Biles recently, removed herself from the gymnastics group because she just said she wasn't in the proper headspace. Like,
Okay, so I didn't understand what happened. I haven't seen that.
I don't know the full story,
Okay.
but my understanding is that she did not feel like mentally she was there and ready to give her best. So she removed herself from the continuing to compete to let her teammates give their best.
Got it. Wow. What do you think of that?
I mean, I think it's extremely self-aware. I mean, assuming it's a legitimate thing, right? Like I don't know the full story. I didn't get everything, but if that at face value, if that's what is really going on, I think that's an extremely self-aware decision she's making. That's really great. Mm-hmm. To put yourself before your sport for the high school athlete is extremely challenging, let alone somebody who's competed at Olympics and is going for gold and like the ultimate top of their sport.
Yeah, is the best of the best.
Right. To like be on that stage that only comes every 4 years, who likely could not get another chance. Mm-hmm. For her to step back, I think is a cool moment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's
takes a lot of self-awareness to do that.
A lot of bravery, self-awareness. And it's cool to see that there's a lot of support around it. Mm-hmm. There's obviously probably a lot of hate and people being ridiculous, but every time I've seen it publicized somewhere thus far, it's been very supportive. Mm-hmm. And just for people listening, we know that this happened a while ago because you're probably listening and you're like, that was like 2 weeks ago, guys. Yeah. But we're just recording this one pretty early, so it just happened today.
Yeah, we're a few weeks ahead.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's very admirable.
It's fresh.
I mean, this is a topic too that I was talking about with someone recently. Of like, it's crazy. We talked about athletes and leaving their sport and having a really hard time transitioning out of their sport. Mm-hmm. And Olympians, man, like I know that that's something that is known to a lot of people, of like even people who win gold, like some people become severely depressed after that. Mm-hmm. Because they've done something their whole life and devoted their whole life to this, and they reach the top. And now what?
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about that, like you can achieve something so high that you've set your eyes on forever and still feel like there's not something there.
I mean, and think about the scenario where you've made the Olympic team, you're going to compete, you get there, this is maybe the peak, or, it's every 4 years, so you may never get this opportunity again. In a lot of these sports, to have the financial backing to continue to train, to maintain a high level for another 4 years until this comes up again, mm-hmm. is so hard.
Especially if you're in a sport that's not like popular.
Right. And a sport that's like so common that there's the hot young talent coming up behind you. Like you get one chance for a lot of sports, mm-hmm. unless you're an absolute freak like a Michael Phelps or something.
I do.
But
for the people who don't know, again, I forgot. 23 gold medals, 28 total medals.
Yeah, savage.
Okay, sorry, proceed.
To think that you could work so hard and sacrifice any prospects of a career in anything else, mm-hmm. to get there and to like not even medal, feel like a complete failure, and then have to go home, realize your career's over, and have no clue how you're going to make money to support yourself.
Dude.
Like that's a dark, dark place to be in.
Yeah. And especially if all the people around you are just only praising you for your sport.
Right.
Because it's all you do.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know what I was having the kind of similar conversation recently too. One thing that I think is not talked about enough in this whole dynamic is just like respecting the game. You know what I mean? Like, man, you could have been the 7th swimmer in this year's Olympics. You didn't medal, nothing, and your career's done. But man, like, if you put like legitimate work out there and 7 people beat you and you know that somebody's going to be ahead of you on the Olympic roster next year, like, you know, to get a little heated about it, like, don't you dare pretend like those other people did not deserve that. Respect the game. Like, you have to work hard to get that, but everybody else is working hard too. And if somebody's more talented than you naturally, you got to work harder. But like, if you don't respect that, then you're not gonna be able to feel like, damn, I gave it my all, but those people worked hard too, and they beat me, and they deserve that.
Yeah.
And I can walk away knowing I worked hard to be the best I could at that. I feel like people don't think that people are very caught up in the selfishness of sports from that aspect, especially at that level where, like you said, you are just praised for your ability to perform. And on, you know, here's another thing, like all of the traits that people have that make them valuable in society are very, very much so not available through their sport. Like, even like, again, we can name Michael Phelps because he's an iconic, historic individual in sports. How many other swimmers do you know that I couldn't, like, how many other, like Ryan Lochte, because he was like kind of, they had like the heated thing and like he got into some drama off the field, you could say, and like all of that, like, so maybe people remember his name because it's kind of fresh. 10 years go by, nobody's going to have any idea who he is. But I guess my point is, we push these people into these sports so aggressively, and we make it seem like this is going to be their way to leave their mark in the world. And man, so few people leave their mark through their sport. You're likely to just become irrelevant from your sport. And certain sports just don't even have the notoriety to be relevant. Like, you could be the best of the best in a sport. Like, I played volleyball. Like, most people could not name an Olympic volleyball player. So there's no glory in that. I just wonder how much we're emphasizing the wrong aspects of like life in that sense. You know what I mean? Like, man, we just like, what are we doing to people?
I mean, yeah. Like, do you care about Michael Phelps?
Honestly, like, great swimmer, but don't care.
Yeah. And that's so sad. But it's not at the same, like, it's because I don't know. It's weird.
I think admiration is one thing, and appreciating high achievement is one thing, but I don't think there's going to be a lot of people who think that Michael Phelps left a great lasting impact on the world. Right? Winning a gold medal doesn't leave a lasting impact on the world. It's a selfish achievement.
I mean, you could say he did it for the U.S.
No, I can't. Like, what does that even mean?
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, see, people, you know, like, just because this is a very popular philanthropic athlete, like Tim Tebow won the Heisman. I'm almost certain more people will look back fondly on Tim Tebow for something he did for them, not for himself.
He did that recent story with the kid who won that award at the ESPYs. Did you see that?
I didn't.
There's a kid who I believe has Down syndrome, and he completed an Ironman. And
that's awesome.
Tim Tebow like highlighted his story and presented him with I don't know if it was like the Vanguard Award or no, it was the Mike V Award. I think that's it. But yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is like, we don't value people for their contribution to the world for the things they did for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like, contribution is not a selfish act. You know what I mean? So if you're not contributing like greater into society, then that's not really going to be a lasting legacy.
Yeah.
And I feel like people get into sports and think about their Olympic aspirations as some kind of legacy building machine.
I was going to say, we value it as a contribution.
Yeah.
But it's not.
But now, I maybe want to clarify my position here. For the individual, that is not the soul-filling contribution to make.
Mm-hmm.
In society, sure, people idolize Michael Phelps like other people do, but if you really want personal fulfillment, you probably have a better chance at contributing and providing to other people rather than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I bet Michael Phelps doesn't hang out at home just like really, really thinking about, man, I'm the best historic swimmer.
Yeah, no, he
doubt
got depressed.
Yeah, right? So,
the best Olympian of all time.
Yeah.
Like now he's a huge advocate for virtual mental health.
Yeah, BetterHelp, is that what the organization's called?
I don't know.
Yeah, the digital mental health provider. I think it's called BetterHelp.
BetterHelp is one of them. There's a lot out there now. I'm pretty sussed about them.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how. I mean, telehealth, it's going to have its pros and cons. We're still figuring it out. Mm-hmm. But yeah, anyways, I think it's an interesting dynamic. Like, on one hand, people value it, but on one hand, these athletes are left empty. What's a more lasting impact? Performing your sport at a high level. I just think we need to make sure people have a balance of both, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to the initial point of like respecting the sport.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching one swim race, and the first place racer was like milliseconds ahead, and the second place racer like kind of caught her at the end. And one was US, one was, I believe, South Africa. Could be a different country, but I believe that's what it was. And the second place finisher was like so ecstatic for her still, and was like embracing her, cheering her on. And I was like, oh man, my heart right now is just great.
Yeah. See, and that's another thing too. Like a hard fought battle that results in people just respecting the freaking game.
You feel it when you see it.
Like, which means there's something humanely true about the emotional response you had there,
Yeah.
Like the resignation that occurs in a moment like that. It doesn't happen when someone gets pissed.
No. Or
or
shits on the other person after they beat them.
Yeah.
Like you just either feel like, oh my God, that's kind of scary, or like maybe overly hyped, and it's not even a good thing almost.
Yeah. It's so interesting how like some of those like there's a archetypal almost like narrative of like two worthy competitors like doing their absolute best, and the winner wins, and they both knew that they like laid it all out there. Mm-hmm. There's something just like emotional about that.
Yeah, that humility piece of it is beautiful. Mm-hmm. Well, because I think this almost goes back to our initial point of like collaboration and allowing all different types of minds to work together. Like seeing people work so hard for something and supporting each other through it is beautiful, because we can see that like this person had a great time, this person worked really hard, they're definitely better off than what they were by like really pursuing this, and also they're bettering this other person at the same time, instead of one person's going up, one person's going down.
Right.
Like, that's what we want.
Lifts all ships.
It does.
I mean, gotta be more rising tides out there.
Yeah. Can we take a minute to just like admire the ocean?
It's great.
I went on Monterey's website, Monterey Bay Aquarium. They do live webcams
Of the beach, just the little cove they have right there.
of the aquarium, of all the different. There's
Exhibits?
the jellyfish. Yeah, there's the sea otters. What else was I looking at? I was looking at everything.
They got stingrays.
Stingrays. There was like the shark exhibit. It was
Their big tank.
nuts.
They have a big tank in the center.
They do, which, yes, the give and the take of it's sad, but hopefully they're
I'm
being
pretty
treated
sure the Monterey
really
Bay
well.
Aquarium is like a rehabilitation facility. Am I wrong?
I don't know the facts about it, but unreal quality on these cameras. If you want to go check out some really cool fish and sea life, go to Monterey Bay live webcams.
That's right.
That sounds kind of
Good plug, Nick.
good.
But yeah, that's cool. You just want to appreciate the ocean.
Well, yeah, I just don't think. I had somebody tell me the other day that like our world is blue, and like the ocean is the most beautiful thing, and sea life is the most beautiful thing. And they were going into details about like different facts about anemones and different types of fish and starfish. And I was like, wow, this is something that I just haven't tapped into enough. That is so fascinating.
The ocean is, it's also fascinating in the fact that it's so unexplored.
Yeah.
There's so much more to know about the ocean. Like, we don't go to the ocean floor. We can't. What if there's a whole race of animals down there that we've just never experienced?
More humans.
Sea of Atlantis.
Dude, seriously though, like how cool. And how cool that there's just like millions of different species
Yeah.
that we're still discovering like every day.
Yeah.
But how sad that we're just like messing the ocean up.
Right.
Oh,
Way to bring the mood down, Nick.
well, let's end it on that sad note, Brendan.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Thanks for joining me today, Brendan. Listeners, thank you for joining. Viewers, thank you for joining.
Thank you for reviewing.
And next podcast, we got a couple of different people lined up, so
Hopefully we'll both make it. We may have some conflicts.
yeah.
We're going to do our best, but we are committed to delivering.
Oh yeah, every 2 weeks. It's coming. Peace.
Later.